I usually talk about a few players each week that are slumping, just been struggling all season long. Guys that you might be panicking about, and then tell you what to do. Do you keep, trade, cut? But today, there's one particular player that we have to finally address. Are we ready to give up on the reigning National League Rookie of the Year? Michael Harris of the Atlanta Braves looked like he was going to be a future star after last year's debut. Only 21 years old, came up with the Braves in May, and he didn't look back. Went on to hold down the center field job all year long, hit .297 with 19 home runs, 20 stolen bases, and of course, that Rookie of the Year award. If you play fantasy baseball, man, you were able to pick him up right at the time that he was called up or shortly thereafter. That was a league winner for you, somebody who absolutely helped you out in every category, and you got him for nothing. So naturally, expectations were through the roof. He was a top 50 draft pick this year. People thought that he would be one of the mainstays in their lineups. I mean, there are slow starts, there are struggles, there are letdowns, but what Harris has done so far this is baffling, honestly. He is hitting so poorly that people are considering just dropping him outright. So here's the $1 million question. What do you do with him? Well, first, if you aren't aware, this is how bad it's gotten. One of those advanced stats that evaluates overall player performance at the plate. We talk a lot about WRC+. That's weighted runs created. One look at this year's leaderboard, you see names like Aaron Judge, Corey Seager, and a couple of Harris's teammates in Atlanta, Ronald Acuna Jr. and Sean Murphy. Go to the flip side, you'll see some players that you might forgot that are even still in the majors or just don't belong there anymore. Jackie Bradley Jr., Austin Hedges, some backup catchers, utility players, and vets who are on teams like Oakland. And then right there at number 8, among all batters with at least 100 plate appearances so far this season, in the top, or should I say the bottom 8 of WRC+, is the reigning NL Rookie of the Year, Michael Harris. His batting average is .168. He's striking out 25% of the time. And his slugging rate is .252. Not surprisingly, StatCast backs up his poor performance, his expected stats all way below average. It's not just a matter of bad luck, and it's at this point just getting out of hand because he is not snapping out of it. Now, a lot of players get off to a good start in their rookie year and then really don't amount to much. Sometimes it happens. A player can start out hot and then get figured out by major league pitching or hitting on the other side. But when you look at the list of NL Rookie of the Year winners, it's a list that looks like an all-star team. Over the past decade, guys like Bryce Harper, Jacob deGrom, Pete Alonso, Ronald Acuna. 2021 winner Jonathan India, well, he had a sophomore slump that was pretty hard until he got hurt, so it was a lost season for him, but he was struggling anyways. So now could we have back-to-back seasons of flops following a Rookie of the Year campaign in the National League? It's hard to imagine somebody who's so talented and toolsy like Harris could just forget how to hit. Harris wasn't just good for a stretch last season. He was good all season long. He didn't get figured out by Major League pitching. So here's one thought. Could it be health related? If you recall that Harris was on the IL for a while this season. He played for 1 week until he hit the injured list, lower back strain, and then came back. And since then has just not been good. Is it something where his swing is affected, or maybe he just doesn't feel comfortable because the back, of course, affected so much by every swing? We've seen guys have these issues before, and not just with the back. It could be a hamstring, or it could be something where they just don't fully trust themselves. They're worried to re-aggravate it. Maybe they just don't have all their strength back. Sometimes it's a mental thing more than physical. You might wonder, well, why is he out there every day if he's not 100%? Well, sometimes players play through injuries, or maybe they don't realize that they're not 100%. You look at the way he plays defense, you say, he looks just fine. You know what? Maybe he is when he's running around, but maybe the swing just has a different feel. I'm not going to speculate on this, but I'm just saying that it's possible that the injury has had some sort of effect on his swing, whether it's physically or mentally. Whatever the case may be, Harris is still out there. If he's on your fantasy team, or you were speculating, maybe you think this is a good time to buy low, but should you actually go ahead with this? Let's look at his profile. What can we actually expect going forward Is his luck going to turn around, or is it not luck at all? Let's start with the key thing for a batter, and that is plate discipline. Mentioned 25% strikeout rate. Well, you know what? That's the same as last year. That's not really that bad for a current modern major league player. In fact, he's only 2.5% over the major league average right now. So that's not an issue. It's not that he's not seeing the ball well, and his walk rate is actually better than last year. So plate discipline, if anything, is promising. What about his batted ball luck and outcomes? Well, he's hitting the ball in the air a little bit more. The line drive rate is low at 17%. You'd really like to see more line drives because those tend to fall for base hits. And with a guy with his speed, singles can become doubles where they won't for some players. The launch angle isn't that bad. I mean, his ground ball rate isn't really that high at 50%. And with a speedy batter, that's not the worst thing. So I don't think that's really the issue. His launch angle is decent. This isn't a case where he's just hitting the ball in the wrong places, popping it up a ton, or hitting it straight into the ground. This is really a non-issue. Now his BABIP is a little bit low. That's batting average on balls in play. That's 212. A lot of people attribute to this, so they call this the luck stat, right? How it should be versus how it is. Typically, speedier hitters tend to have better luck with their BABIP because they can leg out some ground balls, not be at the mercy of the fielder so much. In this case, we could see some regression, but not enough just to say, well, he's just been unlucky. Exit velocity, just fine, same as last year. His max exit velocity is actually better, and so I'm not worried about whether he's even hitting the ball hard. That's where I talk about the back. Is it an issue? It looks like it isn't. When he is making contact, he's hitting it just as hard. Now there is one stat that does jump out to me. His first pitch swing percentage has gone way up this year. He's at 38.1% as opposed to 26.3% last year. That's also 9 points above the major league average. So this means he's being more aggressive, or put it another way, maybe less patient and less disciplined. So while these plate appearances might not be resulting in strikeouts more often, he's putting himself in worse positions, meaning getting behind in the count, maybe pressing a little bit because he is behind, not having as much success. So in this case, maybe a guy trying to do too much, the pressure of all the expectations from last year, maybe the pressure of starting slow, maybe because he was injured and missed time. Whatever the case, this does seem to be a slight mental issue. I don't think it's injury. I don't think it's anything physical. It's nothing to do with his ability to hit the ball or how he's even hitting the ball. It's just that he needs to get himself in some better counts and maybe have some better outcome. So what's the verdict? Is it going to happen for him? Is he going to have success at all this season? Anything even close to last year? I'd like to say it's a resounding yes, but it's so hard to predict what such a young player is going to do. Is he going to figure it out? He's probably taking a look at all the same stats I am. He's breaking it down. He's got coaches in his ear, video, whatever it is. It's easy to say, but hard to do. I will say this. If you're in a fantasy league and you have Michael Harris, this isn't the time to drop him. You bench him until he figures it out, but you can't just drop someone who's so talented, because if and when he does catch fire, you're going to be kicking yourself the rest of the year. If you don't have Harris, is he worth buying low right now? Absolutely. But here's the catch. Do not pay full price. And by that I mean, don't be giving up something that's similar to what you would have given up early in the season or preseason based on his draft value. Nobody should expect an elite outfielder or any kind of top tier talent at any position right now because Harris is hitting so poorly. It's got to be a buy low. If there's a hot player that you picked up during the season that is outperforming Harris, let's say a guy like Joey Wiemer, outfielder for the Brewers. You know what? Right now on paper, he's substantially better than Harris. But you're willing to bet that Harris will outshine him the rest of the way. This is a fair trade because you give up someone who is productive, taking a chance that the guy that was so good last year is going to bounce back. I would take that bet. If you're behind in the standings, you're going to have to make a move, and this is definitely the type of move that's worth going for. So while the panic meter on Harris has got to be sky high right now, I will say I think he'll turn it around. Maybe he won't get to 2020 this season, but if you're willing to take a little bit of a risk with your batting average category in a roto league, you know what? Harris might make up for it with power and speed, assuming he does get that power back. If you missed it, you can check out my top waiver wire pickups for this week right now.